Alrighty, guys. Next speaker will be Ron from RV Warehouse. So he'll be talking his great annexes. And if you watch my videos, you know why I love great annexes. All Australian made, 10-year warranty on the annexes. But he's also going to touch on awnings and anti-flap kits. Because of the weather, obviously we're going to have to try to visualise an awning out here and all that. So Ron's going to do his best to explain everything. But at a later stage, I will get Ron in our yard as well, where he'll do a proper masterclass on a van, roll-out awnings coming out, annexes and anti-flap kits. But yeah, so just he'll try to do as much as he can today and improvise. So I'll leave you with Ron. Thanks Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, hello, I'm Ronnie Stafford. I've got a company in Brendale called RV Warehouse, and we manufacture great annexes, and Steve is kind enough to support us with getting you guys connected with quality canvas and vinyl products that you need to extend the outdoor living area. So, as you all likely have, you would all have a roll-out awning fitted to the caravan. And if anyone's missing a roll-out awning, go and check down the highway potentially. So what we do is in our company is that when your roll-out awning fabrics wear out under the sun, we replace those with some quality gear. And we also make a range of shade products and weatherproof room products for you guys to extend your living area. So today, ideally, I wanted to be in front of a caravan with you guys right now to give you some hints and tips around operation of your awning, because there's a couple of common mistakes that people make when using their awnings that leave them open to wind damage and water damage. Interesting fact, insurance companies report to us, or report to the industry, that the #1 most claimed item on any caravan is the awning. Okay? So when you consider the awning itself and you look at it for what it is, that roof that's mounted on the side of your caravan can catch wind load and it can catch water load. And when you look at the sheer size of your sail, if you like, I often say to people in my showroom, if you can imagine that sail on a mast on a tinny in Moreton Bay, how reckon you're going? And they're like, oh yeah. Right? So these are the kind of loads and forces that these products can capture while you're using them out in the field. And one thing that people probably don't connect with is how much loads through it. So you don't have to put your hand up, but who's been in a storm where there's been big rain and big wind and they've erred on the side of caution and thought, I'm going to put the awning away in the middle of it? Who's done that? Yeah, put it away before ideally, but we all get caught out, and that could be 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Let me just give my first piece of advice is never try and put an awning down in the middle of an event. You will open yourself up to the higher possibility of losing control of that awning. That wind load just grabs it. Those awning arms, which are all extruded aluminium, can fly through that air like that. If you're standing in the wrong spot, you know, good luck. Okay? So what I think I'll do today with this presentation is just take you through some of the common mistakes. I want to explain a few of the components, some of the ideal setups. We'll explain a little bit. I brought up some fabrics, so I can discuss a little bit around fabrics and the difference in quality in fabrics, which with the imported influence in our marketplace now, it's kind of hard to tell by eye where the differences lie. So I'm hopeful you will get a bit of an education around that, but also how to care for the fabrics without doing yourself an injustice, trying to keep everything clean, but you're actually hurting your fabric. Okay? Is that okay? All right. So, what I'll also mention is I brought up a couple of little goodies here. Obviously, wind is one of those things I mentioned. I've brought up a A couple of these hold down clips that go on your awning you can rope off to, that go around your drum and help anchor the awning down. So I'll ask some random questions at the end, and first in, best dressed with the answer, okay? Happy with that? Okay. So a little bit of background so you get some perspective from where I'm coming from. I started in the industry with a company called Aussie Traveller, which you may be familiar with, back in 1998. 97, my mistake, 97. And I was only fresh out of high school basically, and I used to travel around with those guys doing awning and annex fittings and sales. And some 16 years ago, I started RV Warehouse with my wife, and we're down there doing it, making local products here still in Brendale. So it's been quite a journey. We've picked up a lot of knowledge along the way, so I'm trying to impart that onto you today. Yeah, hopefully get some value out of it. Now, let's start with rollout awnings. Some of the key mistakes made with rollout awnings, or some of the key points I'd like to, incite you guys on. And this can be interactive as well. So if something comes to mind and you want to pull me up, feel free. We've got an hour or so. Now, the biggest mistake I see people make, or not, I wouldn't say mistake, but one of the things I don't like to see, people roll an awning out. They'll set it up and they'll stand the leg up on the ground, right? And then they might put a peg in or they might put a rope on. So, to make you understand you guys would, maybe some builders here who can back this up, but when you roll an awning out off the caravan, you've got, the frame kind of looks something like this, right? Top of the caravan, arm going back to the bottom, here's the roller. We stand that leg out. The strongest place for your awning leg to be is back up on that caravan. Can anyone guess why? Triangle. What's triangle do? It braces, okay? Now, if you are in this position and that 2 o'clock storm hits, do you think you're better off here or there? 100%. So where possible, I understand at times, especially with front kitchens now going on vans a lot. Who's got a front kitchen on their van? More and more of us. That becomes a bit of an issue, right? Because we want to get to the kitchen and that arm's in the way, go stick it out here, out the way. No problem, bring it out, double peg that foot and get an anchor on it minimum. Bear in mind when we have wet conditions with wind, right? The ground becomes soggy, less sturdy. The wind's always acting on the awning because that sail is large. And of course, you're always looking at it going, has it moved? So this is the nervous position or the keep checking it position. And this is the, I'm confident that the van wall isn't going to blow off. We hope, Stephen. So that's one key thing I want to just demonstrate. If you can leave it on the van, leave it on the van. That's my recommendation. Any questions around that? All right. Now, the one key thing I see also is the rear of the caravan is the one with the ratchet switch, right? There's actually a consideration from when you move it from the van to stand up and back again, that movement. What that movement does to the roller and the spindle is as you lever that leg out and up, it's actually turning all the mechanics or the ratchet system as you move it, okay? So what happens is you'll walk up, you'll click roll down position, you'll roll it out, yeah? You'll slide your arm up, you'll pick your big arm, you'll raise it up. Ratchet's still in roll down, correct? Because it's not rolling up on you, obviously. However, when we take that leg from there to there, while that ratchet is in still roll down position, that ratchet is locked by the tooth. So as we now send that out, that roller turns with it, right? Who's had their anti-flap kits and curve rafters in, then gone and put their leg up and everything wants to fall out and carry on? Yeah? Because there's a ratchet in there at play. So there's one simple rule I want to teach you today, and it's called the reverse rule, the reversey rule. Just keep it easy. Think in terms of what you're doing with the leg. I want to put the leg out. The ratchet needs to be the roll in position. Right? I now want to put the leg back in. Where's the ratchet going to be? Roll out position. And this would be a perfect reason to show you now, as you now pick that up through the roll, to bring that leg out, but it's in roll in, you'll hear the ratchet click. So now there's no pressure going into your ratchet system, therefore avoiding bending or damaging the internal ratchet system itself. And when the ratchet system's damaged, that can be the difference of that awning coming and staying out or staying in, more so, when you're driving. Does that make sense? When we are set up either in the packed away position or the set up position, our rollout awning would always be in roll up position. I'll repeat that. When it's here or there, the ratchet is always in roll up position. The only time the awning in its life will ever be in roll down position is when you're going from one stage to the other or back again. Okay? Reason for that, you set your awning up, leg out or not, and you're set up right now. Most people, I'm walking around that park there now, I'd say maybe, I don't know, fair majority will still be in the roll down position. Okay? So, we're sitting here listening to me today and this storm hits. Okay? We're not ready for it because we're here. It dumps a lot of rain quickly, or wind as well. What do you think the awning can do if it's in roll out or roll down? What can it do? It can continue to open out. So as that massive sail we spoke about earlier takes all that load on, it can continue to spin that drum outwards. Now all your rafters and your anti-flap kits, well, they're still going to try and grab on, but they're not going to maybe stay there because now the awning's going, I'm going to go further. Does that make sense? So you travel with it rolled in because we don't want it to come out. We're going to flick it to down. We're going to roll the awning out. Arms, leave them there as my recommendation. If you must, stand them out, double peg rope. But that roller now, do you know the spare groove where you put your shade cloth? Yeah? Has anyone ever heard of the 3 o'clock position? Who's familiar with 3 o'clock? Who's heard that term? So what that term refers to is the spare groove that your shade cloth slides into at the ratchet end as you're looking at the awning. Imagine it as a clock face. When most people roll them out, they'll either take them to 6 o'clock to make the shade wall point in the ground, which makes sense. However, what that does, by overextending that roller, the fabric now falls behind the roller, so when it rains, it can't roll off, it can't drain off. So it catches water, potentially pools, and then you're in a world of hurt if it happens to take hold. So 3 o'clock position is, get it out, set it up, actually physically grab the drum, flick your switch to close, because that's where we want to be when we're set up correct. But we're going to let it turn in those 2 or 3 clicks to get that spare groove to 3 o'clock on the clock face. That's after you're up, right? The last step you do. The last step you do is flick that, let it close to 3, but we want it in roll up, correct? So how are we going to stop it from rolling up, do you think? Once we stop. You know your rafter arm with the knob? So flick it, take it to 3. Because it's now in roll up position, you can pull pressure straight back through it, and it's not going to roll out because it didn't roll in. By pulling the pressure through it, all your fabric goes tight, right? And then we're going to lock that black knob off there. Got me? And that's set. That is set. So now you can dump wind on it, you can dump water on it, you can do whatever you like, and ideally you're back on the van. Now you can take all that pressure and not risk it being affected. Yeah? So that's a cool little step. Is there any questions around that? That's correct. So the only time it lives in roll down is when we're going from one to another, whichever way that is. So that's a very good point. Time to leave and go home. Don't forget that's in roll up, right? But you'll get, that's a little, you might make the mistake once or twice. Now, if you happen to make the mistake, right, all that's going to happen is you're going to loosen that knob off. It's going to close up until the inner meets the outer, and it's going to stop. And you might then, your rivet head that's holding your slider in place may then kind of jam within the big. You'll have to use a bit of force to get it out, but you'll get it out. But you won't make that mistake again.
So, one question. So, is there a rating for both the frame and the canvas? And if so, where do we find out what the rating is? And is it the national figure?
Okay. Yeah, so quick answer is no.
So
there's no rating, there's no testing, there's no standard. Common sense, right?
Common sense isn't common, is it?
No, but what I refer to as common sense is when you're sitting under your awning and the weather's up, the westerlies are blowing, whatever it might be, you can see how the awning's behaving. You can see when it loads up and when it drops, and when it loads up and when it drops. And you're looking at that going, you know what, I probably shouldn't be doing that. Right? But the thing is, you may not be there to see that either, because you're off in the wineries having a look, right? Right? So my advice is, if you follow the 3 o'clock roll in advice and you leave your arms on, you'll go a long way to increasing its tolerance to weather load. Add in curved rafters, add in any flap kits. Now we're controlling the movement of the skin as well. Okay, we're stopping the ability for wind load. We're distributing load through the van wall, through the roller. And now we're a lot stronger to it all. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just wonder why as an industry you haven't got it nationally registered and notified what each one is.
Yeah.
I mean, we're under so much health and safety with gas, stoves, electrics, weight. I mean, the lecture we just had.
Yeah.
And then you just said something can take your eye out and take
Yeah,
your phone off.
100%.
And there's no rating on it.
It's a great email to customer support maybe. Though, look, I'm not aware of any wind loading ratings that's happened. I've been playing since 90s, but there's no set number that I've ever been made aware of. All right, yes, sir.
Should you have your 3 centre poles in?
Are we talking the verticals or the rafters?
Vertical. Crossways.
In your roof? Yeah? So I would absolutely say if you've got them, use them. Because we want to increase its capacity to take any event on. A little bit like this home before, right? You've only got a few short moments to decide what you're going to do to handle. Now, we don't have that kind of level of safety risk unless it's all unhooked and hanging off some precarious ropes or something. However, I would say increase your capacity where possible. Realistically, it only takes a couple of seconds to pull those poles out and get them in. It's not a big job. We can get lazy and go, it's not blowing. Really? Let's just get them in and then we know we're right. What do you reckon? So that would be my advice, sir. Absolutely. If you've got them, I'd throw them in. Why not? Yeah. Yep. Now, let's stay on the awning for a minute. I'm going to I didn't realise there were going to be so many of you, so well done, the numbers for turning up this weekend. So what I'm going to pass around here is, and I'll just start one side, maybe just do a loop as we go, and I'll talk to these as we move. So unfortunately in awnings, 20 years ago or so when I first got involved, rollout awning manufacturers actually used decent materials as their roofs. Okay? They had a good grade fabric, relatively good arms, and all was good. Unfortunately, from around 2007, from when GFC really hit, is my rough mark, is there where the penny pitching started to occur on how they can supply these products, but more economically. And what was the cost? was the fabric. So fabrics over the last 10 years particularly have started to really get lighter and lighter. Unfortunately, what that means in our harsh conditions is that the material will dry out a lot quicker and they'll shrink, they'll discolour, they'll crack, all those type of things. Who's had an anti-flap kit on an awning and now drilled 2 or 3 or 4 holes to chase the fabric down the drum? Right? That is a perfect example of a fabric that's drying out, and as it dries out, it tightens. Think back to the early Holdens or the first kind of holes where they started using moulded dashboards. Remember when they first come out, they had the big problem with the splitting, right? Again, it's a plastic, it's a PVC. Once it dries out, it evaporates all the oils out of it and it shrinks. No different with fabrics on your roof. Now, when we talk about fabrics, there's some big advice around how to care for the fabrics, which we'll go into now. So when the fabrics are made, they get kind of like, call it a Scotch guard or a lacquer finish. Okay, it's a chemical coating, top and bottom. That's your mildew resistant, that's your UV resistance. But it's a chemical coating. What do we do when we get home from a trip? What do we use? Bleach. What else do we use? Vinegar. Vinegar's okay. Anything else? Truck wash. Big ones, CT18, Armour All car wash, whatever it is. Right? This is the point. Those fabrics aren't metal. They're fabric. So what actually is good for the van wall is not good for your fabric. It's too aggressive. The chemical actually starts to eat the fabric in a way. That chemical coating that they put on the fabric is a chemical coating. We introduce a chemical cleaner, what do you think might happen? Chemical reaction, what might it do then? Dissolves it away. So one treatment of truck wash on your awning is likely going to dissolve that protective layer of your fabric down the drain with the suds. Then what happens? We dry out faster, we start to get stains we can't get out, shrinks, discolours, all those things. So bear in mind, chemical cleaners on fabric, whether that's an awning roof or whether that's an annex room, is one of the worst things you can do to it. Vans not so much these days because there's a lot of checker plate fronts, but you remember the vans that had the pretty vinyl, padded vinyls on the front? Same thing, right? Come home, wash everything, they're vinyl. The truck wash would smash them, dry them out, discolour them, gone. That's why we're not using them much anymore, because it's not standing up to the conditions. So, question?
I don't know about awnings, but my background is polymer technology. I have a degree in polymer technology.
Polymer, yep.
They're polymonoamine acrylics, so they're polyvinyl.
Yes.
If they're coated, you can't join two together without using the third. That's plate-on steel.
Yes.
If you're using a high phosphate car wash or a wash like the same, it will dissolve anything, usually the bind or the binding medium. Is that the same if you use a non-phosphate cleaner? So there are non-phosphate cleaners on the market.
Right.
Would that be safer to use?
Look, the technical knowledge on the actual chemical compound and the cleaner, you're going to stump me with that question. It's a great question. If I can take it on notice, I'd love to find an answer for you. Phosphates, I can't, I haven't got that deep into the chemicals.
In layman's terms, it bleaches the oils out of
Okay, 100%.
that's why it goes red there.
100%.
So the matrix which holds the molecules together is basically leached out.
Okay, so we don't want phosphate.
You want zero phosphate, which are available.
Yeah. My understanding has just been chemical backed derivatives. Yeah. All your big CT18s are designed to dissolve bugs and dissolve tar and get in.
Can't you do one which is zero phosphate?
Okay, well we should really look in to see if that's a safe option. But the key point's still the same. You're stripping all the oils, you're stripping all the goodness out of the material. Then the other thing is, who sat under a tree, the sap or the bird shits hit it, and you can't get it off. Why? The fabric is bleached of all its oils. It's got nothing in it. And it's going to take it.
It's acidic like phosphate.
Correct, right? And it'll just soak it straight into that membrane, which is the texture. And then once it gets into those fibres, don't try, you'll never get the stain out. You'll never ever. But if our fabric had that protective coating on it, you've got a barrier to help it. Okay? So, go ahead. Yep, so, you know when we go to the shopping centre and we get to the cleaner aisle, and there's like 3/4 or more are all the chemicals and bleaches and ammonias. And then right at the end, we see the earth-safe, platypus-friendly ones. Those ones. Okay? So, those ones are not a chemical derivative. The active agent is not chemical or possibly phosphate, which I love this. You've taught me something today I'm going to go and look deeper into. So, the thing is, those earth friendlies are usually a natural compound, right? I heard vinegar before, right? All those type of things. As long as it's not derivative of a chemical, mate, all day, every day. The tip is this though, they're not as fast acting, right? They need time to work. The best way to clean your awning is in the afternoon in the shade, right? Get your bucket of suds, roll your awning down. Don't set it up, just roll it down so you're looking at it. Go grab one of those $2 sponge mops from Crazy Clark's, wherever. Are they still even going, Crazy Clark's? I think Solly's popped up again. Point is, use your fresh green choice, get your suds going, and turn around. Let's use the mop now and get a suddy in as wet as we can. Get stuck into some spots then at that point, of course. But before we rinse that off with fresh water, we're going to get both sides as wet and suddy as we can, and we're going to flick that roll up switch and roll it away. Right? Now, tomorrow afternoon, I'm coming back, I'm flicking that roll out awning switch, and I'm rolling that back out. What are we going to find, do you think? Not mildew. Unless you've already cleaned it with chemicals before, but it wouldn't act that quickly. It'll be still damp because plastic can't breathe. Okay, so it's going to trap that moisture into it. Who's just rolled their awning out one time and all this water drips on them? Right? It can't breathe. That's the humidity ingressing itself in the roll. Right? But it works for us because we've got a detergent that needs time to act, that can remain rolled up inside that fabric and give it time to work. We're going to roll it back out the next day. That bucket can still be available. Now we're going to give it one other hit to dislodge all that looser stuff that's now kind of been acting on all night. And then we rinse it off and we let it fully dry. Yeah? That's how you do it, yeah? Now, gurneys? Gurneys? Gurneys are fine, just don't get close. And really, if you're starting to get the gurney out, you're really trying to attack a point. You can't help yourself, right? You're going to keep going closer and closer because you want it gone. Or if I was in the interest of selling more fabric skins, I'd say yes. Gurneys. Now, you go ahead. Washing detergent, in most cases, should be weak enough not to attack the actual chemical coating. So, washing detergent, because it's soft for hands, right? They're not going to send us into a big... Yeah. It is. It's still... Yeah, they still got that ingredient in there. So, I don't... Yeah, they still got that ingredient in there. So, I get asked that a lot, and I still err on the side of caution because there's still a chemical agent in there.
You know, if you put your takeaway containers in the dishwasher and wash them too many times, they become brittle and cracked. That's the dishwasher.
Yeah, it's a dishwashing powder. Yeah, it's all chemical. Okay, so these fabrics that are going around, has everyone, not everyone's had a touch. Now, just to educate you on fabrics, the fabrics that we're passing around are what they call a 4-ply material. They're a laminate. They have 4 layers that are laminated together. All All others, other than an Aussie Traveller, are 3 layers laminate. So what you've got is you've got a layer of vinyl, the internal scrim, and the bottom layer of vinyl, all laminated and glued together. Who's had an awning so dry that it started to flake off? Who's ever seen a peeling awning? You've had 2 of them. Lucky you. So that's a great way to observe the layers. So when they start peeling and cracking, the top layer now is completely dried out and it's shrinking, and any force at all now will just split it and crack it. But the glues are also drying, and now we can peel it off. When we peel it off, we can then see the white polyester webbing that's in the guts of the material, and that's your strength, right? That stuff, that's not going to be easily damaged. It'll outlast the vinyl very, very easily, but it's no good to you if you haven't got vinyl on top of it. And then of course the bottom. So the fabrics that you're seeing come around now introduce a 4th layer, okay? And then, so you've still got the same 3, but on top of the membrane, there's a black film, which is what we call a block-out film. And what that does, it not only does it add more guts to your material, so it's more dense and less shrinkage as a result because it's thicker and heavier. But that block-out also stops light travelling through and reflects heat. Okay? So if you're sitting under your awning, particularly in summer, not so much today, and you're feeling the heat radiate off your fabric, and most of you guys here will have 3-layer materials, the 4th layer in the aftermarket is the block-out, which you'll love. But what I say to people is you might as well use the one you got up, get whatever life you can out of that, but know that you can come to places like myself and get decent ones put back on. Okay, and we warrant those for 5 years. Now some of your factory skins be flat out making it 2 years, some 4. 2 years of the people who smash it with chemical every time they get home, right? True? Or they use it like all the time, in the sun, all the time, right? So have a feel of it today. If you have an Aussie Traveller awning, you have this fabric already, okay? So hopefully that's you. If not, don't worry, you can get it. And it's relatively economical. So if you were to go and buy a roller assembly from any of the awning suppliers, they average around $800 to $900 for a roller. Then you've got to get it freighted to where you are, and then you've got to get it installed. So the process normally sits around $1,000 to $1,200 in that window, depending on length, to get that awning top sorted. Problem is, they're going to send you a 3-layer again, right? So in 2 years' time, you've got to solve the same problem, and you're replacing a lot of hardware that's not worn out. So for around $750 to $850 window generally, is what you can get a decent skin put back onto your caravan. Okay? And if you've been chasing the skin down the drum with your anti-flap kit and you've got the Swiss cheese going on, okay, not only do we restore it back to where it would have been, to the first hole, if the installer is told, you can spin that 1/3 on the drum so that the wrap of the fabric around to the flap covers all those old holes. In most cases, you can do it. If you've got Annex wall kit systems that need particular holes in particular spots, it may not prove practical because you'll end up with new holes for the Annex poles. So that's awning reskins. And in your little kit that Steve was so kind to give you guys this weekend, you'll find our little brochure here that's in your kit. It's got some colours on the back of it. But that information that I just shared, if you follow your QR code, will take you to my YouTube channel. We've got something like 80 videos on there that you can continue to learn and see how they're made.
I've probably got a 3-layer awning on mine.
Yes.
And you say you're a 4-layer one.
Yes.
Weight difference between the two.
Oh, dude, good question. If it's a kilo, it might be 1 point, you know, minimal. Nothing to worry about. No, it's not like it's 5 kilos heavier or 10 kilos heavier or anything. No, it is heavier, but it'll be a marginal weight difference. Yep.
You talked about the breakdown of the chemical
Yes?
Is there any treatment or any preventative action you can take to prolong that apart from the crop clean?
Great question. Great question. So, gentlemen were saying before how the phosphates will take all the oils out of the fabric and dry it out. What do you think might be able to get put on there to replace oils? And think in auto terms already. You might be already using it, especially when you're doing your car. What are you using? Well, Armour All, did I hear Armour All? Right, so Armour Alls, what are they doing for your dashboards and your plastic components? What are we soaking back into them? We're soaking the oils back into them, right? It's rejuvenating them. It's accepting that moisture back into a dry, thirsty surface, and it's taking that drink. What do we do with leather boots? Do we ever just not do anything with them? What do we do with them? Dubbing, right? We're putting the oils back into it. Dry as a bone, right? You're putting the oils back in. What happens if you don't? Cracks. Same deal, right? Same theory. No different with your awning. No different with any of your vinyls. Another thing you can use it on are all your plastic surrounds on your outside of your van. Whether that's the light shroud cover, whether that's the handle of the jack stand, right? It's all plastic. It's all going to dry out. Give it a drink. So in answer to your question, sir, absolutely. What I would say for a new skin owner is let it do its seasoning. So stitching needs to swell, right? It's a poly cotton stitching. Polyester, 65%. Cotton, 35%. The polyester is the strength of a stitch. The cotton is the swell of a stitch, right? But you can imagine a yarn or a thread, when it's brand new, is super tight, right? You need to wet that multiple times for it to ingress to get to the cotton, for the cotton to swell. So if ever you get a brand new awning skin, or whether it's a brand new tent or anything, right, what I do, we season it, we hose it, we get the moisture into it to help get those threads expanded, right? But don't put your oils onto your threads until they've expanded, okay? Yeah, well, so you know, like, look at today. If there was a brand new awning skin out there today, who's got a brand new van just in the last month? Wow, awesome. No wonder he smiles so much. So you guys might actually witness, depending on how long it was sitting in his yard, maybe not, but if you're seeing like a little drop come through here and there, yeah, we're still waiting for that to swell. Don't panic. There's a lot of people ring up and go, oh, it's leaking. Dude, it's all good. It'll happen.
We come through about three years ago to have a better quality awning put on.
Yes.
Which we can about. But on top of that, we also, with discussions with yourself, we also put cover along our caravan.
Sacrificial skin. Yep.
What wasn't out there in the sun and what we're travelling.
Yep.
Protection too.
Yeah. So gentleman was just mentioning that he come to our shop 3 years ago, had a fabric done, and thank you for vouching for it. But we also recommended for people who store their caravans outside, if you have to store them out, you can have a sacrificial cover made that sits over the awning roller when in storage. So when the sun's belting it every day, it's belting the cover, it's not belting the fabric, right? And it's just another layer of protection you can do just to give yourself some longevity in your fabric, okay? And when you roll it out, it's nice and clean. There you go.
And it's still clean.
It is, yeah. All right, so that talks about awning fabrics. I've touched on a little bit on how you can care for them and how you can look after them to get the most life out of them. But like I said, if you find yourself where your skin's starting to really shrink up, discolour, peel, time for a newie. And the team can sort you, or we can sort you direct, whichever way. Any other questions before I move on?
I put a washing line between the arms of the
Awning? Yes.
down from the roll.
Yes.
And it's been suggested that if that's too tight, it can have an impact on the ratchet mechanisms. Is there anything?
No, I can't see it having an impact on the ratchet, but I can see it having an impact on the alignment of the arms over the top bracket. Okay? So your arm comes out and comes back over and sits over the little one once you roll it away. And we're now putting an inward pressure on those arms. We're forcing them in. There's little bits of play in the awning frame. So when the manufacturer first put the awning on, they put those things on, they align it all to the arms, and now it rolls away fine, okay? You come and introduce a cable onto it and you pull pressure inwards on those two arms. When we now roll away, you could be starting to misalign yourself. It may not be a problem, but it may be also. I can't see it being a problem on your ratchet, because if you do set up to the in roll up position, you could hang your towels and everything off that clothesline, which adds weight, which is the same as load from the wind and the rain. A towel and clothes is also adding load. If you're in roll down position, absolutely you can turn the drum. That would be the impact on the ratchet. As far as like damaging it, probably not. But again, it will make it move.
So there's no warranty issue in relation to the awning?
Dometic would answer that, or whoever your manufacturer is. Probably not. I mean, I can't see what it's really going to do to it. It's not something I'm seeing anyway. It's not something I've ever seen. So.
I was told that the warranty washing line on backwards players is rather.
Yeah, look, some suppliers will have different policies. It could vary. I've never heard of it generally in 20 years of warranties being knocked back because of clotheslines. Not something I've heard. But then again, the right guy on the right day, who doesn't want to take ownership potentially, might find a reason. And if that's sitting there, that could be his reason, maybe.
But they did replace the skin anyway, because there was too much tension on the wall one.
There you go. Yep. Perfect.
The heat. So our old van with our old awning, everything you said before, it was stuffed and shrunk.
Yep.
3 holes.
Yep.
On the ends.
Yes.
To get it right to come in.
Yes.
The heat under it was terrible.
Yes.
Terrible. Luckily, we've just got a new one, and it's got the Aussie
Traveller.
Traveller.
Yeah, you should have a better experience.
We haven't had any sun for 6 weeks yet since we've had it.
Yep.
It's been raining, but
Yep.
what sort of percentage improvement should it be? Because it feels good.
Okay.
We have had some sun, but
Yep.
it does feel a lot better already.
Yep, perfect. So the question was, what would be the heat percentage benefit from the 4-ply versus the 3-ply? A little bit like the question asked before around what's the win rating. I don't have an actual number. I can tell you a story.
It just feels good.
Stig Anderson, probably don't know him, but he was a client to us. He was a Welshman, and I got the feeling that if he was an angry Welshman, you really wouldn't want to deal with him. Okay? So I share this story because when we started doing fabrics back however long ago, Stig come in and we said, listen, this is a block-out film, rah, rah, rah. Stig was a bald man, right? But when they built his Southern Cross Caravan, right, the awning track in relation to the top of the door was very close to each other. So when he would walk out his caravan door underneath the fabric, the vinyl was practically there. And on the 3-ply he would feel it on top of his head as he walked out. So Stig come through, we did the awning swap. Most awning skins happen in the same day with us. So he come in the morning, we made it, we fitted it, he drove out. Happens every day. And a week later, I get a phone call from Stig. And I'm like, oh no, here we go. He's in Nowra at that point in time. Ronnie, just want to let you know, mate, absolutely, that thing holds the heat back. Right? So that's the only story I can serve on that. That was when I first had that story come back from Stig. I went, this is real. This is right. You know, it reinforced my belief or my understanding of the fabric, because the material manufacturers sometimes may claim this, that, and the other, but it's hard to really test. But a bald man walking out of his caravan, the result was there.
We say that as well.
Yeah, we've had
That's what we know.
It's
Well, okay, there you go. So, what was your names? Yeah, Parsons. If you really want to find out, the Parsons have one already. Thank you, though. Thank you. Okay, so that's rollout awnings. So there you go. So that was your fabrics. I'm just talking to these now. One last point I can make, if ever you're in the position where you need to get one made, these are some fairly common colours that are available. Charcoal grey, which most of you guys would have. That's you guys? Yep. There's a blue, a burgundy, and just a flat out white only, right? Some people love white only. Because they're thinking about the heat, right? They're thinking about the radiation. A cool colour, right? The big marquees you see in the field isn't black, it's white, because of heat retention, right? So that's the 4. But the other point to know, especially with the new vans now, is fabrics can be either grey when they're rolled up down to white, or white down to grey, right? Because we manufacture, you get a choice on which way you want it. It doesn't cost anything more, you just choose what you want. So if you are white to grey at the moment, but you don't like seeing the dirtiness, when you get your new one, just get us to make it the other way, and you're there, okay? Yeah? 5 minutes, okay. All right. Okay, so I've only got 5 minutes left. The boss has put me on notice.
Forget about it.
Pass a few of these around. What this is, what these materials are, is what we use on our annexes. Okay? So if you could pass these around the same way, if you don't mind. All right. All right. Have a good feel. Everyone got a touch? They're coming round. All right, so I'll explain a few things about these materials. All right? Just keep talking. Just talk over them. Righto, so what these materials are, these materials we use when we make the wall kits that go on the awning. So if you want to enclose that awning into a now livable weatherproof room, we don't use vinyls, we use canvases and vinyls. Why do we use the canvas?
Weight.
Weight is correct. Why else? What is it? Strength, yes, correct.
It's breathable.
Breathable. So like I was saying before about the roof, you know, you roll the awning out and it dripped on you, right? We don't want that moisture and heat getting trapped inside the room, right? We want to let it get out. We want the moisture to get out. We want the dew to get out. We don't want to trap it inside. So if we went a full vinyl setup and it's a dewy night and we wake up, who's walked out of their caravan in the morning, looked up at their awning and someone's like someone's hosed it, right? You imagine if all your walls were that as well. What's happening? Condensation, right? Do we want a wet, damp room? Right? So we work with an Australian canvas mill in Maitland, the Hunter Valley in New South Wales. This is one of the only few remaining mills in Australia that's making this high quality material. They were probably made that dry as a bone material as well. Okay? They have a massive, they are brown canvas, wax canvas. That's where they started. The company's called Wax Converters. They started with oilskins back 30 years ago with old Jim, and young Jim's now expanding it all out. If you follow our YouTube, there's a full factory tour of where the weaving and the coating happens in the Hunter Valley. If you're interested in know how fabrics are made, have a look at that. So, We are obviously large enough now. We don't just work with Sunrise as a dealer, we work with many others. And we have quite a high volume of annexes that we make every year.
We're not one.
So, what, dealer? I haven't seen a best one yet. Now, because we're buying in batches and not rolls, we can now talk to the manufacturer and say, listen, we want to make it a certain way. So what we've done is we've worked with them to pretty much derive our own recipe of coating. The base cloth is always the same in Annex, well, if it's a decent Annex material, but now we've formulated our own coating. And what's this about? This is not me trying to plug, this is me trying to educate. What we've done is, instead of working with a straight paint, I'm trying to find anything that might resemble that at the moment. No, okay, can't show you that. But most canvases are just like a dull off, kind of flat grey, you know, camper trailers, annex walls. But we knew that rooms, especially in summer, can capture heat even though they can breathe, they still heat up. So with our material, we call it platinum. But what we've been able to do is get them to add a metallic ingredient that reflects light. Okay? So when the sundown light hits it, we're getting it to bounce off. Now, to your question around how much buy in this, we've never done a proper test. All we do is hear the feedback from the people at the caravan shows. When they see us again, they go, oh yeah, got your annex, how's it going? Yeah, great. Right? What do we call our annexes? Great annexes, right? Why is it called great? That's the word people use when I see them at the caravan show the next year, and the year after, and the year after. Does anyone know how many years warranty that we offer as a maker on annexes?
5 years.
5 years? Anyone else?
30 would be good.
30 would be good. You'd probably get, I tell you what, don't clean it with chemicals, you'll probably get 30.
15.
10.
10.
We offer 10-year warranty on our annex warm clips. How many people offer 10 years on anything these days? Yep. They're banking on you not owning it in 10 years. But I just wanted to demonstrate that because there's a key point I'm making. With imported stuff, here's a great example. Is this made in Australia, you reckon? Why? Why? Because they want to sell that flag to Steve for a couple $100. Do you think a factory in Australia, by the time they make that material, cut and sew it and get that sign on it, that logo on is going to cost $200? No. But if you pay a bit more for something, what's it likely going to get? Quality, right? Am I the cheapest annex builder in Australia? No. Which one would be cheap, do you think? Coming from where? Right? The biggest change I've seen in my time in annexes has been when I first started 20 years ago, every annex maker built in Australia. There was 3 mills back then, there's only 2 now, and one of them is probably close. Don't know for sure, but anyway, he's small now. They had a big factory fire like 7, 8 years ago, wiped him out, he never rebuilt it back to what it was. Nonetheless, this material built locally is using all your quality yarn, all your quality coating, the process, so that when you do it right, it lasts. This PVC vinyl that goes on the bottom of the annex, where's that made? Maitland, Hunter Valley. You will not find China on mine. Same place, same material. What we've got is we've still got a woven base cloth, but now mixing up PVCs and spread coating it over the base cloth. But again, you do the proper base cloth, you do the proper ingredients, the thing is strong. One of the key features we have on our annex is the triangle at the top is a translucent material. Right, has anyone got one of my annexes by chance? One there, 2 there. The top of the annex is translucent. It lets light come through. Why is that? We get days like today. We get days like today when it's raining, and what do? We zip up our doors and our windows, and what happens inside? Pretty dark. Goes dark. What would we love to come through into the annex? Okay, so our triangles at the top are translucent skylights essentially. Really popular feature. I know I'm running out of time. As far as we go as a builder, look, there's been a massive resurgence back in Australian made quality since the COVID thing. Supply out of China, shipping, the whole deal, pushed everything up. The Chinese guys aren't as cheap as they were, and they can't be until it all settles down again, right? Interestingly, within the market sector, the Chinese guy got bought out by the local guy, but they're not doing anything differently yet, still the same. Maybe it changes, maybe it doesn't. But what we know is that we can come to an event like this. There's a lot of people that have our products. We go to caravan shows, we're sitting ducks. We're doing bad work, we're doing mistreating. What are we going to do? We're sitting there. What are you going to do when you walk in? Is that good for the guy sitting there going, I want to buy one? No. So we take comfort in the fact that what we're doing for you guys isn't the cheapest, but it actually serves you well. It stands up in the storm. It lasts you 10 years plus. You know, if you've got grandkids or someone in there, or even things in there, that if that storm hits 2 o'clock in the morning, do you want to be going, oh, should I go outside and see if it's all right? No. So that's where we sit. And that's available to you guys, but it's shrinking. It's good for us in some ways because we've got less competitors locally, but the price point from the internationals is causing a disparity in the marketplace. But that is improving with the problems they've got. So that's kind of a quick wrap on everything we do. I know that Steve's mindful of time here, so I'll take a couple of questions if you've got them before we finish. Yes?
What material are you using on the porch? Is it the Annex or the
Annex?
Annex material?
Yes, because it's going to be folded and sat under a bed or in a tunnel boot. Vinyl doesn't love folding and storing. So we're using and it's lighter weight. As much as vinyl suppliers will tell you they're lighter than canvas, maybe 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, not now. Canvases are much lighter, easier to store. Actual fact, the coatings have advanced so much now that even if you develop mildew on most canvases now, you can just brush it off once it dries. Okay? 30 years ago, nah, it's in the material. You're just trying to scrub it, the mould won't come out of it. Not anymore. The coatings have improved a lot. Any other questions?
We all know that we will in
Yes.
discussing that with your annex kit. If you have a full annex around,
Yes.
you know, in the school,
Yes.
is it better to leave it all out?
Absolutely. If you leave your annex up in a storm, it will eliminate the ability for the storm wind load to come from under and lift it up. Absolutely. It creates a stronger structure when you've got more hanging off it. Yeah. And the good thing about the fact that it's fabric, right, it won't break like an aluminium roller will, right? It's pliable. It can take the hit, it can fold, it can, even if it collapses, you rarely will break an annex. You'll break the awning, you'll break the arm, but you won't break the annex because the annex is flexible. So we have our kits, an installed price, which is your 3 walls, your draft skirt, and a basic front porch, barbecue porch, is around $39.50 fitted. Okay.
Can I just buy the skirt for the...
Skirt by itself, like $3.50, I think they are fitted, roughly. Yep. All right, any more questions before I start giving some prizes out? No, you just want prizes, right?
What was the prices of your awnings again?
The skins normally fall between $7.50 and $8.50 fitted. It goes on lineal meterage. Now, if you only got a 3 metre awning, it's not going to be 600 and something, but.
The awning cover to protect the roller awning, and then they're just shelf money, or?
Oh no, we still make them to size. About $300 fitted, $350 fitted.
You have the showroom.
We do. We do. We have a factory and showroom in Brenda. Annex, 20 to 25 kilo total. Yep. About 15 to 18 kilo in the pack, about 5 to 7 kilo in the poles. But if you then add on additional flies with additional poles, you add on another extension room, that all adds in. A standard kit is normally 20 to 25 kilos on average. Any other questions? All right. So, what is the correct detergent to use on a skin? Hey Steve, you've got to pick who says it first. I'm pretty sure I heard it from over here. There you are, Maddie.
Oh, thank you.
Righto. What is the rule called when taking the caravan arm off the caravan? Don't do it. That's an even better answer. Up the back there, mate. Okay. Where is our Australian-made canvases made? Was that Maitland there with the blue jumper? Sorry? Did I hear Maitland here? Yep. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, 2 to go. All right. I love that. What was it? Yell it out. Ronnie Cooper, welcome.
Thank you.
We're about to finish. Oh, cooking sausages. Yes. Not eating them. There you go. Okay, so this one. What is the percentage breakdown of our thread?
35, 65. 65, 35.
Yeah, well, that's the same answer, but which way? I'll give it to you first. Which way? Perfect. Well done. And a lot of you guys won't get this because it's an in-joke, but I reckon you guys are pretty good guesses. Who is the sexiest man in caravans? Me. Steve. Who? Who? Thank you very much.